This is Jonah chapter 2, verses 1 to 7. This one's a little bit longer than we normally do. And it says, Then Jonah prayed to the Lord Yahweh his God from the belly of the fish, saying, I called out to the Lord Yahweh out of my distress, and he answered me. Out of the belly of Sheol I cried, and you heard my voice. For you cast me into the deep, into the heart of the seas, and the flood surrounded me. All your waves and your billows, or your swells, passed over me. And then I said, I am driven away from your sight, yet I shall again look upon your holy temple. The waters closed in over me to take my life. The deep surrounded me. Weeds were wrapped about my head at the roots of the mountains. I went down to the land whose bars closed upon me forever. Yet you brought up my life from the pit, O Lord Yahweh, my God. When my life was fainting away, I remembered the Lord Yahweh, and my prayer came to you into your holy temple. Now, after being swallowed by the fish, I can't even imagine what Jonah's experience was like. Total blackness, a struggle to breathe, an overwhelming smell, a burning sensation of the skin, weakness, a sense of hopelessness, a sense of panic. Jonah may have experienced some, if not all, of these things. But despite his precarious situation, he did not abandon his faith in God. And so, from the belly of the fish, Jonah prayed to his God. And in verses 2 to 9, we have a summary of that prayer. In his prayer, Jonah cried out to God for help and was confident that God would intervene in some way. Jonah says in verse 2 that he cried out from the belly of Sheol. Now, Sheol was a reference the Hebrews referred to as the place where one went after this life was over. It referred to death, or to the grave, or to the netherworld. Jonah hadn't actually died here yet, but as he describes his present state throughout this chapter, he was as good as dead, because there appeared to be no more hope for him at this point of ever living under the light of day again. Despite Jonah's hopeless situation, Jonah summarized here that he had hope in God, and that God would intervene on his behalf. Now, some understand Jonah getting this spark of hope from the fish saving him from drowning. My grandma used to say, no matter how black a storm cloud overhead might get, the sun eventually comes back out. And life with God is that way. There's always hope in Him, regardless of what happens. Now, verse 6 says that Jonah sank down to the roots of the mountains. He's talking about the base of the mountains, beyond the sea level. That is, the bottom of the sea. As Jonah went away from God, he went down about as low as he could go. Have you ever hit rock bottom in your life? Or felt like you were heading in that direction? Have you ever experienced God's deliverance bring you out of it? As you meditate on this passage, I want you to think about how there's always hope in God, regardless of what happens. Think about that throughout your day. And as you respond in prayer to this passage, tell God that you like His hope and His faithfulness. This is praise. And ask God to help you to hope in Him more, especially when things seem hopeless. And step out in faith. Face challenges today with the confidence that life in God is all that really matters. And remember that nothing can take that away from you.